What if everything you've been told about
artery is
managing
showing
high
signs
blood
of
pressure
aging,
is only half the
stiff,
story?
calcified
What if the
deposits
pills you
here?
take every morning are doing
We
just
see the
enough to keep your numbers in check,
Look at this
but doing
incredible
absolutely
deep
nothing
red beet.
to fix the
It's
real
truly
damage happening
radiating
inside
with
your arteries
nutritional
right
energy.
now? That's
This
a
is
question most
fantastic.
doctors never ask. And it's a question
All right,
the pharmaceutical
little guy,
industry
you can make it
certainly
through. Just a
doesn't
little
want
more
you
pressure.
thinking about. Because the truth
There
is,
you go.
high
Don't
blood
worry,
pressure
we're gonna
isn't
fix this
just a
soon.
number on a
See
machine.
how the nitric
It's a
oxide
signal,
arrives,
a warning
allowing
that
the
your
vessel
blood
to
vessels are under
relax
stress,
and expand.
your kidneys are working
This
overtime,
brings relief
and your
and better
cardiovascular
flow.
system is slowly losing the battle. And treating that signal with a pill while ignoring its
Keep
cause
beating. I'm
is
here
like
to help
pulling
you.
the battery out of a smoke
Thank you,
detector
doctor.
instead of putting out the fire. My name is Dr. Thomas Reed, and today I want to show you something different. I want to talk about 7 common foods. Foods you can find at any grocery store
I have
that work
great
directly on the
news.
root causes of
Your latest
hypertension.
test results
Not just
look
masking the
excellent,
numbers, but
and
actually
everything
repairing
is
the
right on
internal
track.
systems responsible for keeping your blood
Notice the
pressure healthy
difference?
in the first place.
The narrow pipe creates
These aren't
turbulent,
exotic
high-pressure
supplements.
flow.
They're not
But the
miracle
wide
cures
pipe,
being sold in a
smooth
bottle.
and easy.
They're real
Which would you
foods with
prefer?
real science behind
The
them,
smoke detector
and the
needs a
research
fresh
is
start.
so compelling that
Yes,
some of these
that
foods
should
have been
work.
compared head-to-head
But wait,
with prescription
the fire
medications
is
in
still
clinical
there.
trials. So before you refill that prescription without a second thought, stay with me. What you're about to learn could genuinely change your health. Let's start with a food that most people overlook completely, and that is beets. Deep red, earthy, and packed with something called dietary nitrate, beets have been shown in peer-reviewed studies to lower blood pressure within a single day. That's not a typo. One day. The reason beets work so powerfully comes down to a molecule your body desperately needs but produces less of as you age. And that molecule is nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is produced by the cells that line your blood vessels, and its job is to tell those vessels to relax and widen. When your arteries are wide and flexible, blood flows through them easily, and your heart doesn't have to strain. When your arteries are narrow and stiff, your heart has to generate enormous pressure just to keep blood moving. That's high blood pressure in a nutshell. Here's the problem. As we get older, our blood vessels produce less and less nitric oxide. The cells lining the arteries start to dysfunction. They begin releasing compounds that cause constriction instead of dilation, and over time, the balance tips in the wrong direction. Blood pressure climbs. The arteries stiffen. The heart works harder. This is why hypertension becomes more common with age, and it's why simply taking a pill to lower a number doesn't solve the underlying problem. Beets step in here because the nitrate in beets gives your body an entirely different pathway to produce nitric oxide, one that bypasses the aging endothelium entirely. Your body converts beet nitrate into nitric oxide through a series of reactions involving bacteria in your mouth and digestive system, and the result is real, measurable dilation of your arteries. A landmark study published in the journal Hypertension, which is the official journal of the American Heart Association, gave people with high blood pressure just 250 milliliters of beet juice every day. Within 24 hours, their systolic blood pressure dropped by an average of 10 points and their diastolic by 8. To put that in context, many prescription medications don't produce results that dramatic that quickly. And further research found that this effect doesn't wear off. It persists with continued use. Beets also improve how efficiently your muscles use oxygen, which means your heart doesn't have to work as hard during physical activity. And research has found that beet juice increases blood flow to the brain, supporting cognitive function and potentially reducing dementia risk. 2 cups of raw beet juice, or 2 to 3 whole roasted beets daily, is all it takes to begin seeing these effects. Now let's talk about leafy greens, and I mean spinach, kale, Swiss chard, arugula, and romaine. These vegetables are, without exaggeration, some of the most powerful blood pressure medicines on the planet. Like beets, they're loaded with nitrates that your body converts to nitric oxide. Arugula alone contains more nitrate per cup than almost any other vegetable. But the reason leafy greens are so extraordinary for blood pressure goes even deeper than nitric oxide. They're packed with potassium, and potassium is the mineral that most Americans are dangerously deficient in without even knowing it. Potassium and sodium work in opposition to each other inside your body. Sodium causes water retention and narrows your blood vessels. Potassium flushes sodium out through your kidneys and tells your blood vessels to relax. The balance between these two minerals is one of the most critical factors in blood pressure regulation. Here's the reality of modern eating. The average person consumes about 3,400 milligrams of sodium every day, mostly from processed and packaged foods, and only about 2,600 milligrams of potassium. That ratio is completely backwards from what your body needs. Your kidneys evolved to handle a diet rich in potassium and low in sodium, the kind of diet our ancestors ate for hundreds of thousands of years. When sodium floods your system and potassium is absent, your kidneys hold on to water to dilute the sodium, your blood volume increases, and your blood pressure rises. 1 cup of cooked spinach delivers 840 milligrams of potassium. Swiss chard gives you nearly 960 milligrams. Eating 2 to 4 cups of leafy greens daily begins to correct this dangerous imbalance, and studies show that people who do this consistently see significant drops in both systolic and diastolic pressure within weeks. Leafy greens also deliver magnesium, which is a mineral involved in over 300 processes in your body, including the ones that control how your arteries contract and expand. Researchers estimate that roughly half of all adults are deficient in magnesium, and that deficiency contributes directly to hypertension. Without adequate magnesium, calcium accumulates inside the smooth muscle cells of your arteries, causing them to tighten inappropriately. With adequate magnesium, those same cells stay relaxed and flexible. 1 cup of cooked spinach provides nearly 40% of your daily magnesium needs. Add in the folate, vitamin K, vitamin C, and antioxidants, and you have a food that protects your blood vessels from multiple directions at once. Raw or cooked with olive oil for fat-soluble nutrient absorption, leafy greens should be appearing at nearly every meal for anyone serious about lowering their blood pressure naturally. The third food is berries, and the science behind them is genuinely exciting. Blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, and blackberries contain compounds called anthocyanins, which are the pigments responsible for their rich red, purple, and blue colors. These compounds aren't just antioxidants in the generic sense. They specifically target the cells that line your blood vessels and stimulate those cells to produce more nitric oxide. They also protect the nitric oxide you already have from being destroyed by inflammation and oxidative stress. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition gave people with high blood pressure 1 cup of blueberries daily for 8 weeks. Their systolic blood pressure dropped by more than 5 points. And what's more remarkable? The stiffness of their arteries measurably decreased. Their blood vessels became more elastic, more youthful, more capable of expanding and contracting as they should. That reduction in arterial stiffness is enormously significant because stiff arteries are one of the defining characteristics of cardiovascular aging. And most interventions don't reverse them, they just manage the consequences. Berries may actually be turning back the clock on vascular aging, and the mechanisms are multiple. Anthocyanins reduce chronic inflammation, which is one of the most insidious drivers of hypertension. Inflammation damages the endothelium, impairs nitric oxide production, and makes arteries progressively stiffer over time. Anthocyanins also improve insulin sensitivity, which matters because insulin resistance promotes sodium retention and increased cardiovascular strain. Even the fiber in berries plays a role, feeding beneficial gut bacteria that produce anti-inflammatory compounds. 1 to 2 cups of fresh or frozen berries daily is an achievable, affordable, and delicious way to fight blood pressure from multiple angles simultaneously. The fourth food is oats, specifically steel-cut oats or old-fashioned rolled oats, not the instant packets loaded with sugar and salt. What makes oats uniquely powerful for blood pressure is a type of soluble fiber called beta-glucan. When you eat oats, beta-glucan dissolves in your digestive tract and forms a thick gel-like substance. This gel physically traps cholesterol and bile acids in your intestines before they can be reabsorbed into your bloodstream. Your liver, now short on bile acids, has to pull cholesterol from your blood to make more. The result is a measurable reduction in LDL cholesterol, and lower cholesterol means less arterial plaque, cleaner arteries, and better blood flow. A meta-analysis of 28 clinical trials confirmed that consuming 3 grams of oat beta-glucan daily consistently reduces LDL cholesterol by 5 to 7%. But oats do something even more relevant to blood pressure directly. Beta-glucan is a prebiotic, meaning it feeds the good bacteria in your gut. Those bacteria ferment it and produce short-chain fatty acids, particularly one called butyrate, which reduces systemic inflammation and strengthens the gut barrier. A healthy gut means fewer inflammatory compounds leaking into the bloodstream, and lower inflammation means healthier arteries. Oats also stabilize blood sugar by slowing the absorption of carbohydrates, which reduces insulin spikes, and since insulin resistance is a major hidden driver of hypertension, this matters more than most people realize. A study in overweight adults with metabolic syndrome found that eating oatmeal daily for 12 weeks reduced systolic blood pressure by 5 points and diastolic by 3. Cook 1.5 cups of oatmeal each morning, top it with berries and banana, and you're stacking multiple blood pressure solutions into a single breakfast. The 5th food is garlic, and if you're not eating garlic every single day, you are missing one of the most powerful cardiovascular medicines nature has ever produced. When you crush or chop a raw garlic clove, an enzyme is activated that creates a compound called allicin. Allicin is the reason garlic smells the way it does, and it's also the primary reason garlic is so remarkable for your heart. Allicin and the other sulfur compounds it breaks into do several things simultaneously inside your cardiovascular system. They stimulate the production of hydrogen sulfide in your blood vessel walls, which is a gaseous signaling molecule that relaxes arterial smooth muscle and causes vasodilation. They boost nitric oxide production and protect it from being broken down. And they actually inhibit the same enzyme that ACE inhibitor blood pressure medications target, though in a gentler, more natural way. The cumulative effect is a measurable, consistent reduction in blood pressure. A meta-analysis of 20 randomized controlled trials found that garlic supplementation reduced systolic blood pressure by an average of 8.6 millimeters of mercury and diastolic by 6.1 millimeters. That is not a minor effect. That is a clinically significant result that rivals some pharmaceutical interventions. Garlic also reduces arterial stiffness by preventing calcium from accumulating in arterial walls, and it has anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties that protect your endothelium from the kind of cumulative damage that leads to hypertension in the first place. To get maximum benefit, chop or crush your garlic and let it rest for 10 minutes before adding it to cooking. This gives the enzyme time to do its work. Use 2 to 4 cloves daily. Add it to salad dressings, stir it into sauces, mix it into olive oil, or saute it with your vegetables. The flavor it adds is a bonus. The cardiovascular protection is the real prize. The 6th food is one of the most approachable and affordable on this list, and that is the banana. Bananas are one of the most potassium-dense foods you can eat, and you now understand exactly why potassium is so critical for blood pressure control. One medium banana contains about 422 milligrams of potassium. Eat 2 or 3 each day and you're adding over 1,000 milligrams to your intake without any special preparation, without any cooking, and without spending much money at all. A meta-analysis of 33 clinical trials found that increasing potassium intake reduced systolic blood pressure by 4.5 millimeters of mercury and diastolic by 2.5 millimeters, with even larger effects in people who were also consuming high amounts of sodium. The higher your sodium intake, the more desperately your body needs potassium to counteract it, and the more powerful the blood pressure lowering effect of potassium becomes. Bananas also contain resistant starch, particularly when they're slightly underripe and still have a greenish tint. Resistant starch behaves like a prebiotic in your gut, feeding beneficial bacteria and improving the gut environment in ways that reduce inflammation and improve metabolic health. Vitamin B6, found in abundance in bananas, helps regulate homocysteine levels in the blood. High homocysteine is associated with damage to artery linings and elevated cardiovascular risk. Bananas are also one of the most practical blood pressure foods because they require zero preparation and are infinitely portable. Slice them onto oatmeal, blend them into smoothies, freeze them and eat them like ice cream, or just peel and eat them as a snack. They are cheap, convenient, and remarkably effective at correcting the potassium-sodium imbalance that underlies so much of modern hypertension. One caution is that anyone with chronic kidney disease should consult their doctor before dramatically increasing potassium, since impaired kidneys may struggle to process it efficiently. The seventh food is perhaps the most surprising and most welcome item on this list, and that is dark chocolate. Not milk chocolate, not white chocolate, and not the candy bar varieties stuffed with sugar and artificial ingredients. I'm talking about real dark chocolate with at least 70% cocoa content, and preferably 85% or higher. Dark chocolate is one of the richest dietary sources of compounds called flavonols, which directly stimulate nitric oxide production in the cells lining your blood vessels, protect nitric oxide from oxidative damage, and improve the responsiveness of your arteries to vasodilatory signals. A meta-analysis of 20 trials published in BMC Medicine found that dark chocolate consumption reduced systolic blood pressure by an average of 3.2 millimeters of mercury and diastolic by 2.0 millimeters. For people with diagnosed hypertension, the effects were even larger. Beyond blood pressure, dark chocolate improves multiple cardiovascular risk factors at once. It reduces the oxidation of LDL cholesterol, which is the process that turns ordinary cholesterol into the dangerous plaque-forming kind. It reduces platelet aggregation, making your blood less prone to dangerous clotting. It improves insulin sensitivity and reduces markers of systemic inflammation. It also contains magnesium, copper, and theobromine, a mild compound with vasodilatory effects of its own. 1 to 2 ounces of high-quality dark chocolate daily provides therapeutic levels of flavonols without excessive sugar or calories. The higher the cocoa percentage, the fewer flavonols are destroyed in processing and the less sugar you're consuming. Look for chocolate that is non-alkalized or naturally processed, since the Dutch process destroys most of the beneficial compounds. Eat it slowly, let it melt, savor it. This is medicine you'll actually look forward to taking every day. Now let's bring all 7 of these foods together into a single day of eating that works like a comprehensive, natural blood pressure treatment. In the morning, make oatmeal from steel-cut or rolled oats and top it with a sliced banana and a generous handful of blueberries. You've just delivered beta-glucan, potassium, and anthocyanins in a single bowl. Mid-morning, enjoy 1 or 2 squares of dark chocolate with at least 85% cocoa. For lunch, build a large salad with spinach, arugula, and kale as your base, add roasted or raw grated beets, and dress it generously with olive oil, lemon juice, and 2 to 3 cloves of freshly minced garlic. That one salad delivers nitrates, potassium, magnesium, allicin, and a full spectrum of antioxidants. In the afternoon, eat another banana or a cup of mixed berries as a snack. For dinner, pair a protein like salmon with a large side of sautéed Swiss chard cooked in olive oil with garlic. And consider a small glass of beet juice. Finish the evening with 1 more square of dark chocolate. This isn't a complicated protocol. It doesn't require a nutritionist or a special shopping list. It requires nothing more than choosing real food over processed food and being intentional about what you eat every day. Each of these 7 foods works through a different mechanism. Beets and greens flood your system with nitrates that become nitric oxide and relax your arteries. Berries protect and repair your endothelium from the inside. Oats correct the metabolic dysfunction and cholesterol imbalance that contribute to arterial damage. Garlic inhibits the hormonal pathways that constrict your blood vessels. Bananas restore the potassium-sodium balance that your kidneys need to regulate blood pressure correctly. And dark chocolate maintains and enhances the nitric oxide system that holds everything together. Combined, they create a synergy that no single pill can replicate, because no single pill works on all these mechanisms at once. High blood pressure is not a medication deficiency. It is the result of years of vascular damage, chronic inflammation, mineral imbalances, and metabolic dysfunction that medication alone was never designed to fix. These 7 foods address those root causes directly. They give your body the raw materials it needs to repair the endothelium, relax the arteries, balance fluid retention, reduce inflammation, and restore the natural regulatory systems that keep blood pressure in a healthy range. This is what healing from the inside looks like. Not suppression of a symptom, but restoration of function. Start with 1 food this week. Add another the following week. Within a month, you could be eating all 7 daily. And the difference in how you feel and what your blood pressure readings show may genuinely surprise you. This is Dr. Thomas Reed, and your blood pressure has the potential to normalize, starting with what's already in your grocery store.